If you had the option, P. Diner, to interview Meghan Markle, what would be the 3 things that you would like to ask?
I would ask her, girl, did you give birth to those children? Did you really birth those children?
Well, like I tried so hard. Did you like it?
Yeah.
That's what I
Show
would
me the
ask
birth
her.
certificate, okay?
Yeah, show us the birth certificate.
I loved watching people get excited about that when they'd see it.
What do you guys do at home?
Who's filming this?
I'm gonna come.
It's the first time in the history of the monarchy that this has happened. And therefore, we've all been asking, the doctor's name should be made public. You know that they put that outside with the easel, right? And then Harry, if we go by his narrative and spare, he says that Meghan Markle went to the hospital, the Portland hospital, and then she humped a ball, that she was put in the bathtub. She was given not 1, but 2 epidurals. I am a mom. I have had my child by using an epidural. Doctors will never put you in a bathtub if you have an epidural because you have a tube sometimes, you know. They can't be pulling you out of, water can get in, all kinds of things can happen. And then Harry in his book says that within 2 hours of the child being born, they were back at Frogmore Cottage. Those are his words. Those are not my words. Those are his. And then if that is the case, that means that this woman with not 1, but 2 epidural, with a very difficult birth, geriatric, was literally cleaned up. The baby was smucked, wrapped, put in a van, and sent back because it takes almost an hour from Portland Hospital to go to Frogmore Cottage.
Yes.
How can this woman be allowed? That is a medical liability.
3 doctors. That's how many were named on the easel outside Buckingham Palace when Prince George was born. 2 for Charlotte, 2 for Louis. By the time the Cambridge children arrived, Britain knew exactly which surgeon gynecologist had delivered them. Sir Marcus Setchell, Alan Farthing, Guy Thorpe Beeston, real people with real medical licenses who could be checked, asked, quoted. Then came Archie. On 6th May 2019, the Buckingham Palace easel went up at the railings. Time of birth, 5:26. Weight, 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Hospital, Portland, doctor. Nobody. That's not tradition, that's a decision. And once you notice it, the entire story of Archie's arrival starts to look very different.
All royal births from 1688 until 1936 were witnessed by the Home Secretary, and thereafter the Home Secretary's presence was deemed to be unnecessary because you had the royal obstetricians and you had unimpeachable witnesses to the birth of those children who would then sign off officially on the announcements. Every royal birth, with the exception of Archie's and Lilibet's, has been signed off by a host of royal doctors.
Because here's the thing about a royal birth. The reason Britain ever started naming the doctor on the easel, the reason it became convention in the first place, was to put one verifiable adult with a stake in their own professional reputation between the public and the family's word. A named obstetrician is not a courtesy, it's a check. And in May 2019, that check disappeared.
And another thing that I know that they do, if a royal lady who's about to give birth, there's 2 phone calls that the security team makes. 1 to the palace to inform Her Majesty that, you know, she's gone into labor. And 2, that to the security, the head of security to secure the premises where they go. Harry claims that they didn't do any of that. That means that the Royal Police Protection Officers violated security protocol, which will be a first. So I had so many questions. I wrote to Parliament. I sent you the emails for a Freedom of Information Act request. I just wanted them to verify to me that the baby was born in Portland in the names of the doctors, which should be of public information because those children are included in the line of succession. You read what they sent to me. They said that they're not in the business of delivering babies, which is a very weird answer to give because Parliament is in charge of verifying that all royal children meet the legal requirements to be in the line of succession, and documents are sent to them.
The Portland hospital itself, when asked, issued a brief statement of congratulation and cited patient confidentiality, which is hospital language for "we're not telling you anything," which is fine. They don't have to, but every detail you have ever heard about what happened inside that building that morning rests on one of two voices, Harry's or Meghan's. There is no named third witness on record, not the doctor, not the midwife, not a single hospital staff member.
There's a big difference between privacy and secrecy. Now, royal births are supposed to be, the details have to be made public because they have to reassure the United Kingdom that they meet the legal requirements to be in the line of succession, right? And we know that the only living witness to Archie's birth is Prince Harry. Who else? We don't know anybody else.
Now, hold that thought, because the second hospital birth, 2 years later, was even quieter.
The birth certificate for Lily looks nothing like the birth certificate for my son and others. It's definitely different. And even the copy that was released by TMZ said this is not like an official copy. So we have never seen the real birth certificate for Lily. We have not seen it. So I know from what I've seen, it's not legit. It's not, because I have one and it looks completely different.
Fascinating.
And no one, like, who's going to come out and say anything? Who? You know what I mean? So, like, she can get away with it. That's what I think has happened.
The official birth certificate was filed at Westminster Register Office on the 17th of May, 2019, 11 days after the birth, standard window. The deputy registrar's name on the file is D. Mavada. The certificate was drawn up properly. The mother was listed under her full legal name, Rachel Meghan, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. Her occupation, Princess of the United Kingdom.
And as we can see here, this is Santa Barbara County, and you see certificate of live birth. Santa Barbara Cottage, she was born, and this is completely where it says the Duke of Sussex. That's Harry's first name, and his last name is His Royal Highness, okay? Which we know is incorrect, right? This was issued on July 2nd, 2021. I want you to pay attention to this number right here. The 105-202, the 105-2021, 163-206. That number is incredibly important.
That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. On the 5th of June 2019, less than a month later, the General Register Office issued an amended entry. The forenames Rachel Meghan had been removed. The mother was now recorded simply as Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex.
Now you're wondering, why does that number really matter, Paula? This is directly from the government's website, guys. And this is reviewing a birth certificate, birth area code, okay? And then it tells you what it is. It's the first three digits. You remember the 105 that you saw? Is the birth area code. It tells you in which state the child was born. We have seen that in Lilibet's birth certificate. It states that her number is 105. So surely that is California, right? It turns out that California is 104. It's right here. And Colorado is 105.
The Sun broke the story on June 6th, 2019. The Times followed on June 7th. The Sussex spokesperson at the time issued no comment. 18 months later, in January 2021, Omid Scobie posted a statement on Twitter on behalf of the Sussexes. The amendment, he said, was dictated by the palace and not requested by Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, nor by the Duke of Sussex. The palace responded the way the palace always responds: silence.
It was announced that Lilibet was born in Santa Barbara on June 4th, 2021. Suddenly, weird things started to happen because the obstetrician who helped deliver Lilibet shut her practice with little notice, telling patients she needs to focus on my own health and be with my family. Her name is Dr. Melissa Drake. And her husband happens to coincidentally own a fertility clinic. But she quit with given barely 10 days notice to patients, which is unheard of.
Now, technically, re-registration of a name on a birth record is routine under sections 14 and 29 of the Births and Deaths Registration Act 1953. It happens. People update spelling. People formalize titles. Nothing illegal occurred, but there's something worth sitting with here. The first version was filed with both forenames. The amended version had them stripped. Whoever made that decision, Palace or Sussex office or both, wanted it clear that the mother of this child was, on the public record, a holder of a royal title above all else. That's an editorial choice. About a child's birth certificate, made twice by competing households in less than 30 days.
I think she is a person who's done huge damage to the royal family, has been deeply, deeply inaccurate on many issues, and is of absolutely no value either to the royal family or society. But she just sucks from it, she takes from it and exploits it and profits from it.
And it raises a question that runs through everything else we're about to look at. When the people in charge of telling this story can't agree on what name should appear on a government document, what happens to the rest of the account? That brings us to the version Harry himself put on paper 4 years later.
And I have spoken to doctors, nurses, many women who've given birth to children, and all of them say the same thing. Those photographs of Meghan and the way the baby bump performed are totally unexpected, and they're not aware of any baby, any pregnant woman who is genuinely pregnant having her bump perform the way Meghan's has performed.
Spare hit shelves on January 10th, 2023. Random House Transworld in the UK. Random House in the US. Fastest selling non-fiction book of all time per Guinness World Records. 1.43 million copies in 24 hours. Inside, Harry told the story of his son's arrival in his own voice. Memoir, first person, personal. Now line up that account with what Meghan said publicly about the same period. In the Oprah interview on March 7th, 2021, Meghan described being pregnant, isolated and nearly silent inside the institution.
This preposterous pair sitting down, giving that interview, that awful interview to Oprah Winfrey, calling the royal family racists, false.
There's a conversation with you,
With Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be?
potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
She talked about her mental health. She talked about Palace concerns over Archie's skin color. She talked about her treatment by what she called the family. That account, broadcast on CBS, watched by 17 million Americans on the night, became the foundational public narrative of Meghan's pregnancy. It is the version that drove the conversation for 2 years before Harry's book existed. 2 narrators, 1 pregnancy, 2 different emotional arcs.
I was doing an interview to offer them a platform to tell their story about why they left. And that was my number one intention, was just clarity on why did you leave? And so some of the things that were revealed in that interview came as a surprise to me. And those surprises are now referred to as bombshell.
Now line up a third version, the one written by the institution itself. Buckingham Palace's statement on 6th May 2019 ran to 32 words. Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex was safely delivered of a son at 05:26 hours this morning. The baby weighs 7 pounds 3 ounces. The Duke of Sussex was present for the birth. That was it. No hospital named in the headline, no doctor, no detail. What you have then are 3 accounts of one event, given by 3 parties at 3 different times, with 3 different agendas.
She gave birth to them, and she has quite deliberately caused doubt, and she has created mischief, knowing that it would damage the royal family, which would show a level of spite and malice that is truly not only sick but evil.
Harry's memoir was written for sale. Meghan's interview was given as a confrontation with the institution. The palace statement was drafted by people whose job is to say as little as legally possible. The only place those 3 accounts overlap cleanly is on the date. Everything else varies depending on which Sussex you're listening to and which year it is. This isn't an accusation, it's an observation. When 3 accounts of one event don't line up, the cleanest explanation isn't that someone is lying. It's that nobody was telling the story for the audience's benefit. Each was telling it for their own. Tom Bower has spent 4 decades noticing exactly this kind of pattern, and in March 2026, he did it again. Here's a small detail that gets overlooked. When Prince William was born in 1982, Buckingham Palace announced the hospital in advance. Same with Harry in 1984. Same with George, Charlotte, and Louis decades later. All 3 Cambridge children at the Lindo wing of St. Mary's Paddington. All 3 confirmed by Kensington Palace before the birth. All 3 with the surgeon gynecologist's name on the easel outside the palace gates. Even Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, born to Prince Andrew and Sarah, Duchess of York, at the same Portland hospital where Archie was later born, had hospital and physician disclosed in advance.
All other royal babies in the line of succession have had their births signed off. Princess Eugenie, Princess Beatrice, Sarah York, Diana Wales, Catherine Wales, you name it. Everybody knows where the babies came from, at what time, with proof. The only two children that there is no proof for is Prince Archie Bunker and Princess Lily. You better hope that she's really entitled to what they claim she's entitled to.
Archie's birth broke the pattern quietly, deliberately. Through early 2019, the briefing line from the Sussex office and Buckingham Palace had pointed in one clear direction: home birth at Frogmore Cottage. That was the public expectation. Some outlets were told it would be a midwife-attended delivery in the new home. Photographers were not gathered at any London hospital.
And then when the baby was born, when Archie was born, that was another, in my view, a disaster, because I knew we was not going to get a picture of it. Everybody was hoping we would get pictures of it.
Then on 6th May 2019, the announcement came. A son had been born at the Portland hospital. Past tense, done. Hospital named for the first time in the same press release that announced the child. No advance notice, no royal photographer pool outside, no same-day photo call on the steps. The Portland's own statement that morning was 33 words long and contained the phrase, patient confidentiality.
Here, the doctor talks about both the children, and listen to what she says.
So you tell me to tell you something that maybe a dozen people actually know that's going to come out very soon. Okay. Meghan Markle, the reason why you watch her interviews and she just seems off, she's owned by a pharmaceutical company. The two children that she had, they're not hers. She didn't have them with Harry. And how her and Harry met is that she's a prostitute.
2 days later, on May 8th, Meghan and Harry brought Archie out for his first photographs. Not at the hospital, at Windsor Castle, in the wood-paneled St. George's Hall, lit for studio cameras, photographed by Dominic Lipinski of P.A. Poole and Chris Allerton.
The first pictures of Archie that was taken by the Press Association, I mean, showing her on my phone, and she sort of, and that was the first time she saw him, you know, so it was a difficult time. So
compare that with the Cambridges. George was photographed on the Lindo wing steps within 12 hours of birth. Charlotte the same, Louis the same. The royal rota photographer Poole waited outside in fenced pens, was given a window of perhaps 15 seconds, and the world had its first image of the baby before sundown.
I mean, obviously when William was born and Harry was born and George and Charlotte and Louis, we got great pictures outside the hospital. I remember, and William and Catherine especially, they made such an effort to show the whole world their new baby.
Archie's first photograph wasn't a photo at all in the rota sense. It was a controlled studio shoot in a stately home, 2 days after the fact. That's the Sussex playbook in microcosm. Demand privacy, then stage the access on your own terms. And once you start watching for that pattern, it's everywhere. Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor was born on June 4, 2021 at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital, California, 11:40 a.m. Pacific Time, 7 pounds 11 ounces, the first member of the British royal family in over a century to be born outside the United Kingdom. The announcement came 2 days later, through Archewell on June 6th, beautifully written, quietly emotional. Lily is named after her great-grandmother, Her Majesty the Queen, whose family nickname is Lilibet. Her middle name, Diana, was chosen to honor her beloved late grandmother, the Princess of Wales.
Let's not forget that when Prince Philip died and the Queen placed that envelope, remember that? It said Lilibet. And she said that she didn't want anybody else using that particular endearing name, that died with Prince Philip. And what did Meghan Markle do? Just think of the deviousness, the evil of this woman.
It was meant to be the warmest possible moment between the Sussexes and the Crown. 3 days later, that warmth cracked. On June 9, 2021, the BBC's then royal correspondent Johnny Diamond went on the Today program and reported, citing what he described as a good palace source, that the Queen had not been asked about the use of her family pet name. The story ran on BBC News Online by lunchtime. The Sussex side moved within hours. A spokesperson stated, "The Duke spoke with his family in advance of the announcement. In fact, his grandmother was the first family member he called. During that conversation, he shared their hope of naming their daughter Lilibet in her honor. Had she not been supportive, they would not have used the name."
Because the Queen said nobody uses that name anymore around me, I do not want to hear it anymore, that had died with my husband. What did Meghan and Harry do? They named their child Lilibet. And they lied to the Queen because they told the Queen the child would be named Lily. Hence the tweet from Prince William and from Kensington Palace saying, "We're delighted to announce the birth of Lily," because that's the name that Palace, the Queen, and everybody around them were told that invisible child was going to be called.
Schillings, the Sussex's law firm, sent the BBC a letter asserting the report was false and defamatory. The BBC stood by its reporting. It still does. 3 years later, in January 2024, biographer Robert Hardman's book, Charles III, New King, New Court was serialized in the Daily Mail. Among the disclosures was a quote attributed to a palace source describing how the late Queen reportedly took the news. "The only thing I own is my name," and now they've taken that.
It was the last violation to the Queen. The Queen felt violated. When somebody does something to you against your will, that is a form of violation in the worst possible way.
Now, was that quote authenticated? It comes from an unnamed source in a paid biography 4 years after the event. Hardman is a respected royal author. Make of that what you will. But here's what the public record gives us, indisputably. 2 sides, 2 opposing accounts. Neither has retracted. The BBC still believes its source. The Sussexes still maintain the late Queen was supportive. Both cannot be true, and both versions cannot be told by the same narrator.
Sussexes only will talk to people who repeat their own narrative.
Yes.
And who they can control. So the idea that you could get the truth from the Sussexes is contradiction.
Tom Bower's Betrayal landed on bookshelves on 26 March 2026. Bonnier Books' William Collins imprint, pre-publication serialization in the Times, Sunday Times bestseller list within a week.
I think that's the whole issue, that they were globally, and they are globally known, but because of the way they behaved in the last 4 or 5 years, and as the price of betrayal, their reputation and their status and their fortunes are crumbling.
Bower's method, after 40 years of investigative biography, is not subtle. He calls it lining up the public statements, lining up the documents, and noticing where the joins don't meet. He's done it before, to the Beckhams, to Tony Blair, to Charles. He's been sued and held his ground repeatedly. Richard Branson tried, Mohammed Al-Fayed tried. Bower's libel record is, to put it mildly, well tested. When Betrayal published, the Sussex office issued a 49-word statement.
They said Mr. Bower's commentary has long crossed the line from criticism into fixation. This is someone who has publicly stated the monarchy in fact depends on actually obliterating the Sussexes from our state of life, language that speaks for itself.
Notice what's not in that statement. Not one specific factual claim from Betrayal is denied. Not one date corrected. Not one quote repudiated. And here's where I'll just say what I think. This is the pattern. It's always been the pattern. Tom Bower book, BBC report on Lilibet's name, an amended birth certificate sitting in the Westminster Register, a missing obstetrician on a Buckingham Palace easel. The response from the Sussex camp is always the same. Discredit the source, attack the motive. Say nothing about the facts. That isn't a defense, that's a deflection. Real defenses address the claim. They say, this date is wrong. That quote is fabricated. This document was misread. The Sussex office almost never does that, because every time they have done that, shillings to the BBC over Lilibet. The bullying memo response in March 2021, the near catastrophic car chase statement in May 2023 contradicted by the NYPD within hours. Somebody has come back with the receipts. You don't need to take a position on the people involved to notice that the same response gets recycled. You only need to read the public record. The receipts in this story are unusually one-sided. Every fact check of a Sussex claim has produced a contradiction. Not most. Every single one.
Just remember, Harry and Meghan threatened to sue at the drop of a hat, and they have never tried to sue Tom Bower because they know what he writes is true.
So when the Sussex office calls Tom Bower deranged, what they're really telling you is the bit of his book that hits closest to the bone is also the bit they cannot rebut on the record. Six pieces of evidence. Sit with them all together. 1. Every Cambridge child had a named obstetrician on the Buckingham Palace easel. Archie had none. Lilibet had none. 2. Archie's birth certificate was rewritten within 30 days. The Sussex side and the palace have never agreed publicly on whose decision that was. 3 of the 4 people who could speak to Archie's birth scene with authority, Harry, Meghan, and the institution, have given 3 accounts that overlap only on the date. The 4th, the doctor, is unnamed. 4, the hospital was undisclosed in advance, contrary to every modern royal precedent. The first photograph wasn't taken on the day. It was taken in a stately home 2 days later. 5, the Lilibet name story has 2 contradictory versions. The BBC stands by its source. The Sussexes stand by theirs. One of them is wrong. 6. When Tom Bower lays this material out as he did in Betrayal, the response from the Sussex office is to call him deranged, not to correct him. None of the items on this list is a conspiracy theory. None requires speculation about anyone's body or biology. None involves anonymous yacht photos or unverified medical claims. Every single one of these contradictions is documented in court filings, in the General Register Office, in BBC News archives, in Buckingham Palace easels, in the Times, and in the Sussexes' own published statements. You don't need the receipts to be hidden, they're already in the open. What's missing is the willingness on the part of the people who could end the questions in one weekend with a named doctor and a clean public timeline to do it. That's not how a private family handles privacy. That's how a brand handles brand control. The next chapter of this story is going to land within weeks. Bower's betrayal serialization is still running in the Times. Andrew Loney has a follow-up to entitled Scheduled. Court documents from Harry's Ravec appeal are now in the public domain after the May 2025 Court of Appeal ruling. Each release adds another column to the spreadsheet that the Sussex office cannot rebut without naming names. When that happens, and it will, we'll be back here. If you want this kind of breakdown when the next Bower extract drops, or when the Loney book lands, subscribe. This story isn't finished, not even close.